While it certainly isn't fun and is extremely uncomfortable, we have to continue to uncover the Jeffrey Epstein cover-up. I try to bring some levity to the craziness that we're experiencing in society and in the media on this channel, but sometimes some things are so serious, it can be a little bit of a downer, but they definitely require an in-depth analysis. And I'm sure that by now everybody has heard that the FBI and the Department of Justice, headed up by Pam Bondi, said that there's nothing to see in the Jeffrey Epstein files. He didn't do nothing. And they're closing the case. Be sure to check my previous video or videos about this situation in case you missed them. But then President Trump made some extremely unsettling statements during a press conference, which has understandably upset, well, almost everyone. Well, everyone except for Ben Shapiro and certain others. So I'll get into all of that in just a moment. Subscribe to the channel if you're new here, by the way, because, well, as you're going to see, you won't find information and analysis like this anywhere else. Here's a real and brave reporter asking President Trump during a cabinet meeting about this bizarre closing of the investigation by the DOJ and FBI.
Jeffrey Epstein, it left some lingering mysteries. One of the biggest ones is whether he ever worked for an American or foreign intelligence agency. The former Labor Secretary, who was Miami U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta, he allegedly said that he did work for an intelligence agency. So could you resolve whether or not he did?
And that's why Epstein was given a sweetheart deal back in the early 2000s when he was first arrested by Alex Acosta, who again was told that Epstein, quote, belonged to intelligence, and that this matter was above his pay grade.
Yeah, sure. If
Hey, Pam, could I just interrupt for 1 second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein?
Yes, we are.
This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have
He's talking about the flooding in Texas.
this, we have all.
The border, he's trying to negotiate a peace deal between Ukraine and Russia, et cetera, Israel and Gaza.
All of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable.
So this understandably sparked all kinds of chaos this week, and accusations that President Trump is covering up for Epstein because he was part of the group and he was participating in those kinds of activities, which is not true. He very well may be covering it up because if he were to actually expose what was really going on, then a certain little foreign country who has a lot of blackmail material on plenty of politicians would unleash complete and utter chaos on our country. If President Trump was involved in any of the nefarious activities that Jeffrey Epstein and his ilk were doing, the Democrats would have been leaking that. The deep state Democrats, James Comey, John Brennan, former director of the CIA, those guys would have been leaking that information. They would have leaked it almost a decade ago. And half-truths are a very dangerous thing because when Elon Musk was first beefing with President Trump about the big, beautiful bill, Elon gave a very deceptive half-truth saying, President Trump is in the Epstein files. Well, that's old news. He's been on the flight. He's rubbed elbows with Epstein at various parties because Epstein was a vampire who glommed on to any rich and famous person that was in his vicinity. But zero people are accusing President Trump of having participated in any of the kinds of activities that Jeffrey Epstein and his, they say clients, the client list, it's really kind of a misnomer. It's a blackmail list, okay? So just like the urban legend, the fake news about the golden showers tape that the Russians supposedly had on President Trump, not true. Same thing with the disinformation campaign about President Trump supposedly being caught on tape when he was, on a hot mic during the filming of The Apprentice, when they weren't supposedly filming, but the mics are still on and the cameras are recording, saying the dreaded little N-word, even though that tape has never surfaced. And zero people with any credibility have said that they heard him say that. One of the biggest scammers to make the claim was Omarosa, one of the former contestants, in order to help sell her tell-all book. And sometimes the fake news industrial complex does get things right. Like this article in The Economist. Most Trump voters would not care if he had used the N-word. That's right, not only would I not care, but actually,
it'd be a lot cooler if you did.
Do you want to waste the time and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration. But you go ahead.
Well, this is extremely disappointing. I don't think this means that he is playing as big of a role in this nefarious plot as many people believe. This is a nearly 80-year-old man who is and has been occasionally in the past completely out of touch with various issues that are extremely important to the base. A man who has the weight of the world on his shoulders. A man who is spinning so many different plates, trying to keep his eye on so many different things, his mind on so many different things, and has hundreds of people clamoring for his attention 24 hours a day, every minute of the day, that he simply cannot and obviously is not as informed on various issues as we are. When you're in such a high leadership position, and obviously this is the highest leadership position on the planet, that's when you delegate tasks to other people who you trust or who you're supposed to trust with taking care of them. In this case, that would be Pam Bondi, who should resign. And I'm actually surprised that so many people actually thought that there was going to be documents being released that would show big bombshell evidence, because we're dealing with a mafia here that's been operating within the intelligence agencies. And they certainly aren't going to allow such documents and such damning evidence to be accessible by people outside of their inner circle, okay? Not accessible to people like the next incoming director, okay, who's just going to go shuffling through some file cabinets or in some computer database to go and find it to then see what it is that the criminal mafia, the deep state, the Illuminati mafia, whatever you want to call them, were doing. This former CIA officer who Jesse Waters had on, who took over for Tucker Carlson's time slot after they fired him for revealing too much truth, and to Jesse's credit, he has been doing a pretty good job from what I've seen. He has mentioned Operation Mockingbird. He has covered a lot of subjects that ordinarily wouldn't be allowed on Fox News. So I do think that he is doing his best. And here is what this former CIA officer told him.
I'm not blaming the FBI director, Kash Patel, or the deputy director, Dan Bongino. I think that that layer beneath them, that's part of what we like to call the deep state, has taken this bull by the horns, and they've probably destroyed information. Look at what the CIA did in 1975 after Congress ordered that it release all of its files related to an operation called MK Ultra. The director of the CIA went back to headquarters and ordered everything to be destroyed. And in the end, only about 20% of the documents survived.
Yeah, so do you think that James Comey and John Brennan were going to allow these documents to fall into the hands of the Trump administration? This is why Steve Bannon is calling on President Trump to appoint a special prosecutor to investigate what it is that happened with these Epstein files, because obviously Pam Bondi belongs on Fox News as another pretty blonde talking head, not actually heading up the Department of Justice. Because normal Americans, while we are dealing with a lot of issues in this country and the world and our lives, still have a lot of questions about what the hell happened here. Well, that is, except for Ben Shapiro, the leader of conservative media online, who is gaslighting his audience and telling them that nobody cares at all.
When President Trump speaks for the American people more generally, and he says, guys, don't we have better things to do? You can understand his irritation. The man is trying to negotiate an end to a war in the Gaza Strip.
Of course, Ben Shapiro's number one issue in his life and in his career, making sure that everything's good over there in Israel.
He's trying to negotiate an end to a war in Ukraine.
Yeah.
He's attempting to revivify the American economy.
Yes.
He's attempting to crack down on illegal immigration. On a list of American priorities by the polls, the Epstein-Maxwell case comes in,
I would say maybe, 5 or 6.
Pretty close to 0. Just on a list of priorities.
0. Nobody cares. It's not even the 10th most important issue, not even the 20th. Not even in the top 100 issues that the American people care about, according to Ben Shapiro. It's 0. Oh, and we can't forget that Pam Bondi is so incompetent, or maybe compromised herself, that she brought a bunch of conservative social media influencers into the White House earlier this year and then gave them binders with printed Epstein documents that were redacted, even though the unredacted versions had already been made public years ago, and then sent them out in front of the press corps to humiliate them into believing that they actually had the Epstein files. But thankfully, we have some great meme makers in America to help lighten up even the darkest of situations. People who put together memes like this. And this. Then we told them, there's no Epstein files. And this. We're going to release the Epstein list. It's on my desk right now. We just need more time. Oops. There is no Epstein list. And again, the client list is a misnomer. It's a blackmail list. And then there's this gem of that famous photo of Jeffrey with Ghislaine Maxwell, who has been face swapped with Scam Bondi. The Epstein client list is on my desk, she says. What desk? This may be the best one yet, however. This is footage of his supposed jail cell. And here's the hidden footage that they don't want us to see, of course. That's Hillary doing her thing. This one's not a meme. This is Prince Andrew there, photographed with Ghislaine Maxwell, his Mossad handler, whose father was in the Mossad, by the way, in case you didn't know, along with one of Jeffrey's kids. Apparently doing nothing wrong at all. Nothing odd about that, according to Scam Bondi. And because Steve Bannon has been criticizing Elon Musk for criticizing President Trump and the big, beautiful bill and spewing that half-truth, which is a lie about President Trump being in the Epstein files, now Elon Musk is claiming that Bannon's in the Epstein files. But I mean, what's next? Are we going to see that Elon Musk himself has a connection to Ghislaine Maxwell? Oh, wait, what's this? This is an actual photo of Elon Musk with Ghislaine Maxwell. Now, I'm not saying that Elon did anything wrong. Ghislaine and Jeffrey were leeches who rubbed elbows in all of these elite circles and were trying to find various victims that they could bring in for the blackmail. And those who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones, right, Elon? Because, well, a columnist from the New York Times says that Jeffrey Epstein claimed that he was helping Elon Musk find a new chairman for Tesla. And let's not forget, back in 2019, 6 years ago now, James O'Keefe obtained this exclusive footage of an ABC News anchor on a hot mic and on a hot camera in between takes on a show, admitting this.
I've had the story for 3 years. I've had this interview with Virginia Roberts. We would not put it on the air. First of all, I was told, who's Jeffrey Epstein? No one knows who that is. This is a stupid story. Then the palace found out that we had her whole allegations about Prince Andrew and threatened us a million different ways. We were so afraid we wouldn't be able to interview Kate and Will that also quashed the story. And then Alan Dershowitz was also implicated in it because of the planes. She told me everything. She had pictures. She had everything. She was in hiding for 12 years. We convinced her to come out. We convinced her to talk to us. It was unbelievable what we had. Clinton, we had everything. I tried for 3 years to get it on, to no avail, and now it's all coming out, and it's like these new revelations, and I freaking had all of it. I'm so pissed right now. Like, every day I get more and more pissed because I'm just like, oh my God, what we had was unreal. Other women backing it up. Hey, yep. Brad Edwards, the attorney, 3 years ago, saying there will come a day when we will realize Jeffrey Epstein was the most prolific pedophile this country has ever known. And I had it all 3 years ago.
Here's what Bill O'Reilly had to say about the situation on Fredo's News Nation show, which is the kind of fledgling cable channel that pretends to be a centrist channel, although they then hired Fredo as the face of the network. Bill says that he spoke to President Trump specifically about this issue, and he was told this.
I talked to President Trump man to man, eye to eye, on St. Patrick's Day about this and the Kennedy files and the King files. It was all one conversation. And he said, and I agree, there are a lot of names associated with Epstein that had nothing to do with Epstein's conduct. They maybe had lunch with him or maybe had some correspondence for one thing or another. If that name gets out, those people are destroyed because there's not going to be any context. Media doesn't care about context. So you can't do that.
Bill's actually right, but the other half of the story, that few in mainstream conservative media and the wannabe mainstream, those who are trying to get into that inner circle over at The Blaze and The Daily Wire and PragerU and Turning Point USA, etc., won't talk about are Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell's ties to Mossad. That's Israel's version of the CIA, which is notorious for their spying and blackmail operations, because that would be just anti-Semitic, wouldn't it, Mike Thernovich?
because that's just not sophisticated, first of all, and it's vaguely anti-Semitic. Mossad. Well, why? If Epstein were with Mossad, he'd be with the FBI too, right? You really think if Jeffrey Epstein was working for Mossad, that our own FBI wouldn't have intercepts of those conversations, right? So why just jump? Oh, Mossad.
Well, Mr. Thernovich, it's in part because Ghislaine Maxwell's father was a well-known Mossad operative. Do I need to show the clip again of Dan Bongino saying that someone told him at Fox News that Jeffrey Epstein was involved with an intelligence agency in the Middle East? But which one? He just doesn't know, because he knows, he just doesn't want to say, because you know how conservative media ecosystems work. If you disagree with a Jew about the best flavor of ice cream, if you disagree with what Israel says is the temperature outside, then you are an anti-Semite. Do I need to show the clip again of former Congressman Matt Gaetz, who was on the Intelligence Committee in Congress, admitting that he believes that it was a foreign intelligence agency that took out Epstein? He didn't say which one, because that is a bee's nest that a lot of people don't want to kick. Totally understandable, but at least he's not playing dumb, and he's not shilling for them and being deceptive about it. What do you think we should be doing now as Americans, Kash Patel?
We need America to wake up and prioritize Israel and bring home Israelis and make sure we stand by our number one ally in Israel.
I'm sorry, sir, but I'm going to prioritize America because I'm an American and I believe in America first, America only. Let's check in with the Deputy Director of the FBI, the second in command over there, Dan Bongino, shall we? What's most important to you, Mr. Bongino?
What cause is dear to your heart?
Cause is dear to my Israel. The defense of Israel.
What is number one?
You know what cause is near and dear to my heart, sir? America. Getting wokeness eradicated from public schools. Fixing the economy, bringing manufacturing back to the United States. Sealing the border. Getting the dollar back at the gold standard. Preventing a hyperinflationary depression. And rounding up the tens of millions of illegal aliens and sending them back home. Thankfully, despite the Epstein debacle and letdown and cover-up, President Trump is working towards that goal, although there's still going to be a lot of them who are going to stick around. I don't want people to get their hopes up too high about that one either. And we have a lot of good governors who are helping to clean up their states, like Ron DeSantis in the great state of Florida, who recently opened, as I'm sure you heard, Alligator Alcatraz. And if you support that cause, and who doesn't, and you want to support my channel, then head on over to my online store at markdice.com or click the link in the description below and order my new Alligator Alcatraz shirt or the tank top for summer. And actually, all of my designs now available in a tank top. So head on over to markdice.com or click the link in the description below and check them out.